In the last day or so, Bitcoin making some moves. We have around a 10% move to the upside, kind of out of nowhere. Bitcoin just took off. I want to discuss this move right now. I have this ongoing question that I want to just continue to explore. Is this a bull trap? What is going on with resistance? Can Bitcoin overcome that resistance? And how does that translate to a potential bullish continuation on the weekly? I'm going to make it a very simple, to the point Bitcoin video. So hit the subscribe, hit that like button, and let's jump into it. I want to first start off with this. I did a video yesterday morning. It was Bitcoin on crash course, must hold this one support. Many of you know I am always anticipating upside and downside targets at any given time. Sometimes I will post a video that is kind of leaning towards one direction, and you might see hints of me kind of actually, you can tell I'm thinking there might be a bearish move or a bullish move. In yesterday's video, I was definitely leaning towards a bearish move. You see this chart right here, this consolidation on the sideways. There were some things on the 6 hour zoomed in chart. I really thought Bitcoin was likely going to go down and hit its target around $26,000. What happened, what we saw play out, was the exact opposite. But the exact opposite is something that we did discuss in yesterday's video very, very briefly. I'm not saying that I thought it was going to happen, but this is exactly the reason why I stick to the technicals and I stick to the rules of patterns, breakouts, confirmations, and all of that. Check this quick clip out. Right? So what is in play still is the pullback. We see pullbacks happen often in these types of. So we knew that was in play, and I threw it out there very briefly. That is not to say I thought it was going to happen, but this is a perfect demonstration of sometimes it doesn't matter what you think is going to happen. It's best to put away your thoughts, put them to the side, and evaluate what are the targets to the upside, what are the targets to the downside. Just prepare for both scenarios because nobody knows what's going to happen. Bitcoin just out of nowhere does these things. But here we are putting emotion aside, thought aside, and this is the setup. This is what's happening. A couple things, and then we're going to look at the weekly chart because we've been monitoring the 2019 move, and I just want to show you one similarity I find incredibly intriguing on the Bitcoin charts. But on the short term, this is where we are. We have this pullback. It has happened. And you can just see right now even this immediate resistance on the Bitcoin charts. It is of no surprise because putting thoughts aside, opinions aside, it is very simply just testing this trend line, this lower trend line. This is something we see so often in terms of patterns on the Bitcoin and crypto charts. So Bitcoin falls to the downside, pulls back to the upside, and right now we're at this resistance area. This could be a bearish confirmation on the short term. And this is what I'll be monitoring today because Bitcoin right now leading up to right around the $30,000 area, and I believe Bitcoin just hit that area very briefly, but that's the resistance area. What I'd be watching for isn't just bearish confirmation, meaning this 6 hour closes below and starts kind of falling or even just sideways, but a bullish confirmation as well. If Bitcoin could just muster up that energy to actually make an explosive move back into this rising channel, that could be the very bullish move of momentum that we are looking for. So that's number one on this chart. You pivot and you look at the same exact chart on the daily, we start getting a really good sense of, well, what's in store for the rest of this day, right? So 9.5 hours left. Bitcoin on the daily currently testing that lower trend line. And this is the exact chart that I'm watching. I want to see how this daily candle closes. A lot can happen in 9.5 hours. Bitcoin can continue to the upside, maybe 4 hours from now, right? And then we're actually closing a daily candle in this area. At the same time, you have to realize where Bitcoin is, not just at this lower trendline resistance, but if you look at this swing high to the swing low of Bitcoin, look at Bitcoin at this just perfect lower high resistance channel. It's the Fibonacci lower high, perfectly confluent with that trend line. So 786 right around 30,100, the 618, Bitcoin just above the 618, right around 29,500, but Bitcoin is in this resistance area right now. I'd be very curious to see if Bitcoin, whether it's today's daily candle, tomorrow's daily candle, can manage to break above this lower high resistance and close a candle above that area. So that's on the daily chart, what I'm watching. If you even just look at what's below Bitcoin right now, we're talking about Bitcoin closing above resistance, I'd be also watching to see if Bitcoin could, at the very least, on the shorter term, close above the 20-day moving average. Because as you know, we've fallen below it, and this was back in April 19th, not that long ago. And right now, we're breaking back above the 20-day moving average. Be very interesting to watch if Bitcoin can consolidate above that general area, right around $29,000. So this $29,000 to $30,000 region really is the battle ring of the bulls versus the bears. So that's the area we'll be watching for. A lot of confirmations can happen below that area or above that area, and Bitcoin is in it right now. What I wanted to talk about, if we go over to the weekly chart, I know a lot of people don't like just comparing previous cycles, but if we really just zoom out on the chart, how could you not compare previous cycles? Because they've been so consistent in the repetition. It's not a perfect reflection each cycle, but there's so many similarities. And the one thing I was just noticing in terms of the Bitcoin move on the momentum oscillator is this. I always like to see these pivots on the momentum oscillators. And this is a slower moving momentum oscillator on Bitcoin on the weekly. And there are a lot of pivots. And every little pivot that you see, like this little boom to the upside, or to the downside, they happen very quickly. And oftentimes we're seeing these 6-hour surprise moves. This is what they kind of look like and how they reflect on the weekly. But right now it's happening, right? So we have kind of Bitcoin so far in this nice bullish move on the weekly to the upside, coming back down most recently. And right now we're having this quick little pivot. What I find interesting about it is if we go back and we zoom out and we look at this area on the Bitcoin charts that we've been comparing, right? And that is to say, exiting the bear market in 2019, and then just this little break that Bitcoin took before another move to the upside. And I believe it's around an 80% move to the upside right there. That little break, if we look at what Bitcoin was doing on the RSI, we see a very similar potential kind of reflection on the momentum of Bitcoin from a couple different perspectives. We have this downtrend, that's the week of consolidation. And then this is that last swing high for Bitcoin. Bitcoin, 80% move on that RSI. And then even right here on the stock RSI, overbought for a while, comes down, and then boom, there's that kind of that last burst to the upside. So same thing right now, Bitcoin, if we look at this on the RSI, we come up towards overbought, coming back down, and right now, are we getting that second swing high that's in play? Not saying it's going to be an 80% move like that last cycle back in 2019, but even the stock RSI, also an overbought, kind of maybe one last pivot to the upside, and then we're going to get this nice explosive move for Bitcoin. Not sure if it will hit these targets that we have to the upside towards $40,000 or not, but there could be a nice move. And there's that red weekly candle kind of in the middle of this uptrend that Bitcoin has been in, very similar to the 2019 move. So that's just something I'm watching, this more macro looking, bullish, one more leg up for Bitcoin. Again, not saying it would be 80% like it was back then. 80% would bring Bitcoin to above $50,000 in this current move to the upside. But I mean, I could definitely see how, hitting a target of $40,000 is very much in play right now if Bitcoin can manage to put in these shorter term bullish confirmations. So $40,000 is around 38% or so to the upside. That is in play, especially considering every cycle, these moves, even these bull market highs, percentage wise, they do come down a little bit, right? So maybe not as powerful as a move as the last Bitcoin cycle out of that low, but potentially one last continuation of this move before, and I'm going to say this, before consolidation. Doesn't matter what chart we're on, Bitcoin, as it gets overextension from moving averages on the weekly, the daily, whatever, if it did happen, oftentimes we're going to see it just consolidate back into the moving averages, cool off. This happens time and time again for Bitcoin. When that happens, nobody knows, but that's something I'll be tracking as well. Just an update on Bitcoin, everybody. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I appreciate you tracking these charts with me. I really just have fun tracking all of this stuff and waiting for confirmations and seeing what Bitcoin's going to do. And also just seeing how the technicals from a technical analysis perspective really play out. And it's always fun to watch just even things like pullbacks happen. And now we have this area to track right around $30,000. Let me know what you think is going to happen. Comments below. Hit the subscribe, hit the like. I'll see you in the next video. God bless.